Well, I get the privilege of being with Mr. James Hayden, and I'm really excited about this podcast, Jim, because some of the people that sit here, I think I know pretty much the answers I'm going to get. And what's so fun about this is that we're just getting to know each other, but within minutes, you can tell you've lived an extraordinary life and are an amazing person. And I think it's even crazy how we met. We'll get to that. But this is going to be fun. So we don't have any time frames. Right. We're just going to let her rip and go.
As we always do.
As we always do. It just goes. Yeah. So I'd like to sort of start with really a big part of this story that sort of led us together is your childhood, in a sense, because from there as that story continued is how we met. So let's start there. Talk to me about your earliest memories, your childhood, and your life as a little kid.
Wow. How much time do we have?
I know. Yeah, exactly.
So I was born in the Seattle area, Swedish hospital. My godfather delivered me. I was adopted at birth. And what occurred from there, my parents were quite a bit older. They were 40 and 45 when I was born. So it was like growing up with grandparents. And I grew up as an only child. My dad came out of the Second World War as he was an engineer in the Navy and was putting up radar installations. So he learned about radar, but also constructing the installations. So we were in Seattle. Mm-hmm. My earliest memories were he was building spec homes in Seattle, and we'd move from home to home to home, different parts of Seattle. And then he got an offer from a company called IT&T, civilian contractor for the military, to put up radar installation and run a radar installation up in a remote village in Alaska, 250 miles northwest of Anchorage. The only way to get in was fly in or boat in. So,
how old were you when you moved there?
3.
Holy smokes!
We left when I was 7. So, and it was just me. No brothers or sisters or anyone up there. But it was this rich experience. We would, in the time off, my dad, of course, being the engineer he was, made a boat that was shaped like a hydroplane, and we'd go down the river to villages in Alaska, and natives would bring us into their homes, and we'd have a meal with them, and it was a really interesting life. I was the first blonde-haired person the natives had ever seen. So when we first moved there, the native kids would stand outside of the house just to see me, and they ask if I was okay, if something was wrong with me, because I look so different than them. And
you look cold.
Yeah, definitely cold. But I heard from my parents that I run around naked outside all the time, and it's just, it's what you get accustomed to.
Yeah.
So up there, I learned to hunt and fish with my dad. One of the big memories about being up there was I was out with my. I had a husky, of course, up there. That was kind of my brother at the time. And we were out throwing rocks and that by the river, and everything was frozen on the Kuskokwim River up there. And I saw the ice crack the beginning of the spring when I was 5. And I went to a neighbor and I let them know, and pretty soon the whole village was gathered there. The natives brought out a big rug that felt like it was 2 miles wide, but it was probably 50 feet by 40 feet. And I was the first one they put up on the rug and felt like a million feet in the air, tossed me up in the air. And then because my dog was with me, they put the dog on, and the two of us got tossed up in a ceremonial thing because we were the first people to see the coming of the spring up in Alaska. So it was fascinating. And my dad, we'd catch the best salmon. I can still taste it. I remember it. He had a big smokehouse going 24/7. We'd put the fish in the smokehouse. So it was pretty incredible experience. And then we did almost the opposite. We moved to Vandenberg or Space Force Base now, that area. and watch the space shots down there, the satellites and everything going up. So I would be out at recess and we'd watch a Saturn or Atlas rocket liftoff. And I just assumed, these kind of experiences were normal for all kids growing up. And down there, it was a really interesting setting. As a kid, I have at home the autographs of John Glenn, Gus Grissom, and Alan Shepard, some of the first astronauts.
Wow. So this is in Florida?
No, in California.
Oh, in California.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know where they launched those.
But that's Vandenberg and Cape Canaveral are the two places.
Okay.
So Vandenberg has the unmanned missions. And so I still have friends that work on the base there. And
wow.
It was amazing growing up. I still kind of have that California in my blood. I love surfing and getting in the water and that.
What a contrast. Alaska to California. Yeah.
And the whole time my adoption was a private adoption. There was a doctor and his wife who were very good friends of my parents who were Mormon. And so part of it was a private adoption done through the Mormon Church. So I was raised Mormon or LDS till I was 14. And then I made some decisions to go a different direction. But it was a great experience. I have no regrets about it. Learned a lot of different things. I think the Mormons are probably the best networkers in the world. In 8th grade, we had a priesthood class for the men, and we spent 2 Sundays just practicing on how to shake hands with people. It was incredible. So I attribute some of my networking skills to being raised that way.
Yeah.
But I always had this nagging thing. I'd asked my parents for another sibling. I had, no experience at all with people my own age. Mm-hmm. So growing up, my mom was raised part of the time in the South, even though she was born in Idaho. She was raised in Southern Florida. I'd have to pull the chairs out to her at a restaurant. My dad wouldn't do it. I'd have to do it. Open doors, always walk on the outside of a woman and that kind of thing. But I had no interaction with people my age. I had some friends and that I was very close to. But I was being raised by older people and that. So as time went on, people would tease me and give me a hard time, and it's like I had no perception of that. So I'd end up in a fight or something rather than work through it. But in the back of my mind, I always wondered because my parents told me from the beginning what my roots were, and my mom at times would tell me they picked me and they found me under a cabbage patch and things like that. But it was interesting experiences in the adoption. I'll skip ahead a little bit. I met because it's germane to early times. I met my birth mom 25 years ago, and within 5 minutes of meeting her, she said, her mother gave her a chemical she thought would get her to abort me. Yeah, that's not exactly the kind of story you want to hear. And
you're a survivor, day one.
build a strong persistence factor.
You got a really good immune system, I guess. Wow.
Rejection, forget about it. You can't kill me.
Kryptonite, does nothing to me. Oh my gosh.
So it turned out it was quinine, which I love gin and tonics, and maybe it's what's in tonic water. So maybe that's the reason why. But there was that, and then growing up, my mother that raised me, her mother, when we lived down in California, we're sitting at a dinner table one night, and she just turned to me and said, "You'll never be as good as your cousins." Okay, what do you mean? And I was a little annoyed even at that age. She said, because you're not blood. So,
oh God,
yeah.
what do people think?
I know.
Yeah.
It was in retrospect now, it gave me so much fuel, Greg. Gave me so much fuel and fire.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was based on
I'll show you
my own insecurities and
right.
that.
Yeah.
Which, on the one hand, we don't want insecurities. On the other hand, it can really be rocket fuel for people too.
Well, this helps explain, and this is we're kind of going to do a beginning, a current day, and then we're going to go back to the middle of life, because there's all kinds of things that just starting to discover about you that are amazing. But
thank you.
But to me, this explains the joy and the overwhelming joy I've witnessed you connecting with your sister or half sister, but
feels like
sister,
full sister.
Yeah, yeah, and it feels like that in every respect. But why don't we go there, because that's kind of the most current thing, and then we've sort of bookended this family part of your life. So you found out about 25 years ago who your birth mother was, and some stories around that are disturbing. But this quest recently, you've been able to find out who your birth father was and take it from there.
You want to hear that story?
Yeah.
How much time do we have there?
Right. Yeah. It's no way to make it succinct, but I think it's so significant, and the connection that I've witnessed, the completion of the it's almost like a piece has been there, and I've observed it in you, and I've observed it in Donnie, where it's like, oh, okay, it just sort of completes a puzzle. And walk through it with me.
Sure. So my birth mom, I wanted to find out about my birth father. She had a lot of boyfriends during that period of time, which I celebrate that for her. That's, her life. And for the longest time, we thought it was an Italian person who happens to be Seattle-based. The Mario game was named after. So I thought it was the son of Mario. And let's figure that out. Let's confirm it. So there are different DNA tests available. I was on 23andMe and nothing came up. And then 23andMe was having some issues, data breaches and that kind of thing. And a friend said, go on Ancestry.com. So I did. And on Ancestry, I sent in the vial and everything, and Signy, my wife, and I went off on vacation. And my oldest daughter was really tracking and putting together family trees and that kind of thing. And we were in Athens. We got up one morning and my phone wouldn't stop beeping. And she goes, Dad, because my daughter's very much a fitness and wellness enthusiast. She said, you've got a half sister. She lives in Kirkland and she's like a fitness maven and expert and that. And so, I looked at her profile and thought, okay, how do I reach out to her? So I went on Facebook and sent a direct message to her, and it was kind of like, are you a creep or who the heck are you? And so we went back and forth for a while. We were traveling, and Donnie had some retreats, or a big retreat she was doing. And the really bizarre thing is the area of Seattle that we live in, Donnie has a yoga studio that she's a part owner in, which is 3/4 of a mile from our house. And we walk up and down that main street. The yoga studio's been on, and
you've probably been at that Starbucks 100 times.
Yeah. So
right.
So as we started putting the pieces together, it was really mind blowing, because we've probably walked by each other and not knowing. And one of the yearnings I've always had as an adopted person is I'd walk down the street and wonder if I saw somebody that looked a little bit like me or maybe acted like me, I wonder if that's somebody I'm related to. So anyway, 71 years old, and I've got one piece of the puzzle. So Donnie and I met at a restaurant close to her studio, close to my home, and it was just like this overwhelming, immediate connection. And the one thing I've heard, and it's a little bit hard to explain, and even my grandson Finn, who met Donnie last night, said, "You two have the same energy," which kind of scares the heck out of me. But it's I guess you could call it vibrational energy, whatever you want to call it. But we're just kind of on the same page on a lot of things, and we grew up separately. So
right.
Met Donnie, and it's been, we're communicating pretty frequently.
Yeah.
And I can't begin to tell you what it's like to have a sister and other siblings.
Well, and this family of siblings, and I'm probably going to get it a little bit wrong, but in terms of sharing the same dad,
yeah,
I believe there's 12 of you.
Yeah,
that
Idaho doesn't.
That share the same dad, but many different mothers involved in that, and what's interesting to me is that getting to know Donnie and these siblings, there's none that there's really one that I've met that has, I don't know, there's a real connection there with Donnie, Michael.
Yep.
But she's felt in the same way, although she's known of these other siblings, and there's still this disconnected feeling in family for the most part. That would be my assessment. I'm not sure she'd say it that way, but in meeting you, my observation is that it's like finally a family connection that feels connected. Like you say, you share the same energy and the same vibrance. When you walk into a room, you light it up, and it's just palatable, the peace and the joy and the changes that has made in her life. And to me, I guess I take that, philosophically, that everyone should feel grounded. They should feel like they have home. And, I know I have just one brother and no sisters, but two parents that were there from day one, every minute of our life until they passed away in their 80s, late 80s.
You're fortunate.
And I've tried to wrap my head around what would it feel like, to not have that home base, that groundedness of just, I always know where I can go, where no matter what, I'm going to be loved, I'm going to be taken in, I'm going to be supported with my parents and my brother. It doesn't matter what I do, and believe me, I've given them all a run for the money. But
I can relate.
But that groundedness is so important, and so I just think it's an amazing story. I also have this question that kind of comes from this, is that I've never heard from you or Donnie or any of them like a disparaging word about this father who.
From one, I've heard.
Have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
And I think, God, everyone else is just like hey, look how blessed we are. Look, we're all doing fine, and he did his best, and he was who he was, and those kinds of things, but never a judgmental statement that I've ever heard from anybody. And I think, wow, even one of his ex-wives, Donnie's mother, would say, "Oh, if he walked right in today, I'd marry him again."
She loved him.
And you go, who was this guy? Do
you want to hear a little bit of the story?
I want to hear, yeah.
So, Ron, our birth dad, and I would say I met the siblings in Boise not long ago. Some that were over there, and wonderful people, smart, all achieving a lot on their own, but all seem very grounded and very, very focused people. So how did that happen?
Right.
With the background they had, and I'll use an analogy at the end of this, but I'll tell the story as fast as I can. Okay.
No problem. We don't.
So our birth father was born in Idaho, and his father was pretty tough on him. I mean, very tough. And that translated into the sons that he raised. He was also that same kind of person. When he was 13, he found out, and this goes across so many of the families in this whole mix. When he was 13, he found out that his father that was raising him wasn't his bio dad, that his mom had wandered off down the road with this guy, Alvy. And so we're related to the Magars and not the other family, the Hebergers. So he was an exceptional athlete, scholarship athlete. And he was not Mormon. We keep kind of circling around the Mormon thing here, but he wasn't Mormon, but he had a scholarship to BYU. And my understanding was it was baseball and football. And he wasn't a big guy. My birth mom was 5'8", so I'm a bit taller than I think the rest of the crew. So he goes in the Army, really had high recommendations from everything I've seen and achievement. And he's at a party over here in Washington at Fort Lewis, connects with my birth mom. Here I am. and that he never knew I existed. From what I'm pretty sure he didn't. And so he goes back to Idaho and gets on with college. He was a 4-point college student and ended up with a master's degree in sciences. But he goes over to Idaho and meets a 14-year-old. She's pregnant. They get married. They have 3 sons. And her parents take over raising the sons. And so they took on the grandparents' last name. So that's that. While he's married, he meets another woman and raising kids, and it turned out to be a second wife. So they have a daughter, Donnie, and there's a friend of hers in the Boise area that's having a girl about the same time, Kimberly. And so they're raising the girls together, they're friends and everything. A couple of years later, guess who the birth father is of Kimberly?
Right. It's a documentary that no one would believe.
Yeah. We're working on the movie rights right now, but it just keeps going. So he was single for 5 minutes and marries another woman, Pam, and they have a daughter, Michelle, and by this time he's teaching college. He's a college professor, and my understanding was he had as a sports coach, brilliant. Turned around programs, had some of those winning teams in Boise. So he's teaching college, and a little too friendly with the students, loses his teaching credentials in the state of Idaho. So he becomes when he played sports at BYU, one of the things they did for athletes is they gave them performance enhancing drugs, amphetamine. So the majority of his life, my understanding is he was a speed addict. Then he went on to be a professor, loses his teaching credentials, goes up to Alaska, earns the credentials to be a halibut fishing boat captain. Not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
But what happened up there is he ran into another addiction called heroin. So he's a heroin addict. And then Michelle and her mom get him to come back to Boise. He goes back to Boise. He's in his early 50s. He meets a woman and marries her when she's 17 and he's 52. They have 3 kids. So our youngest half sibling just turned 24. I'm 71. It's quite an age difference. And Dee, his last wife, divorced him because he was still out after girlfriends. So, you look at the life and it's kind of perplexing to me because somebody that's so gifted in so many areas, can't hold things together in his life.
Yeah.
And, he went from being a college professor to I believe it was being like a delivery driver near the end of his life. And 79, he passed away in 2014 from a stroke, which is no surprise with the life he had. So it was incredible. So my perspective, I've been able to look at nurture versus nature. And, I had plenty of challenges, and the psychologists would tell you, and I understand it. I had attachment and abandonment issues. When I was born, at the time, they didn't want people to bond with humans, so I had no human touch the first 5 days of my life. Yeah, it has an impact. It gave me some fire. It did, and we can talk about that. But there are issues I dealt with, but I could see what the nature side is and what the nurture side is. And through this experience, I've mentioned it a couple times. There's a quote that talks about something like a peace that passes understanding, and that's where I am with this. There are things in my life that have changed since there was a puzzle piece I didn't even know existed that's been put together. I have so much more peace in my life now, and some of the things I didn't even realize were insecurities are just gone. I've been a people pleaser in my life. Doesn't matter as much these days. It really doesn't, because I really know who I am. Now, it's not a beautiful story, some people would say. I go back to, and I've traveled to Japan quite a bit. The Japanese have something they call wabi-sabi, which is, sounds like great sushi, but it's not. It is celebrating the imperfections we have in our life. Excuse me. So what that looks like is the Japanese, when something breaks, like a bowl, as an example, they fill it with gold. And the more broken it is, the more they celebrate it. And I think that's a way to look at life too,
Yeah. I would love to study that. That resonates. I there's something intuitive that says I really agree with that, because we all have scars. We all have difficult chapters, but it seems that the norm and the culture is just Photoshop it, just make it all look fine. Just gloss it over, and your Instagram picture can't look broken. But the reality is that it's what creates character. It's what creates resilience. You made mention several times just now, Jim, about that well, this wasn't ideal, but it gave me fire. It fueled you. Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean,
that's
first
awesome.
of all, I'm super proud of the siblings and the family I have.
Yeah.
And the story. And, it's, I'd have to say, when I was in my 20s, I slicked my hair back so I'd look like Gordon Gekko back then. And, I felt like things had to be perfect, and I don't now. So that's been a big change. The fire, yeah. What that looked like was I had I had, still do sometimes, a real need to prove myself. And I would bend over backwards to put business opportunities together or things that I wouldn't do today, but I did. And it meant sacrificing family time and that. But I had this real drive. I had to prove myself. I had to be the top person in it. And it manifested itself from the time I was a little kid selling butter toffee peanuts door to door for YMCA camp. And I sold it for a friend of mine who came from a very poor family, so he could go to camp too, because I was on a roll. I was rolling, baby. And newspaper subscriptions. I had 3 paper outs in Seattle one time. There was one doesn't exist anymore called the Shopping News and the PI and the Times. I carried 3 to make more money. I know. And so I had this need to really overachieve. When I was in college, I screwed off a lot in high school, but in college, I'd come into classes because my goal was to get a master's degree in business, and I had to have the grades for it. I graduated from high school with a 1.9. I doubled my grade point. Yeah.
Not many people can say that.
And the crazy part is I'd come into a classroom and I'd go, and I don't mean to profile or be stereotypical, and I'm going to. I would, because they were coming out of the Vietnam War, I'd go, veterans and Asians, that's my competition. If I see them in the library, I'll stay an hour longer than them because I'm going to study harder. I'm going to get better grades. And so I was very driven in terms of competition. I need to get a sip of water or something.
Yeah, do it. Do we have some cold water, AJ, back in the fridge? Yeah. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. There we go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah. So the fear of rejection most people have, or when somebody says no, was never a problem for me. Knowing what I'd been through, I was like, I'll put everything into it. If it's no, I'm moving on.
Right.
So I worked at a clothing store when I was in college, and the kind of busybody women were back in the office, and there was one phone to use, and there was a girl I really liked. This is early college before I met my serious college girlfriend, and I picked up the phone and I had asked her to go to a concert with me, and these women are listening, like this is a big deal, he's asking her on a date, and the girl said she couldn't make it, and I said, that's fine, I'll find somebody else. Boom. Move on. And
success on delivery. You delivered the proposition.
Right.
I'm successful.
Yep.
Whether you say yes or no I'm not tied to it.
So it gave me something. And, the coaching I do with salespeople is being able to give it your all, and accept rejection and move on, get that pipeline filled with other things and keep the pipeline full. So if something like that happens, you've got other activity and you've got other revenue to fall back on. Right. It turned into a gift.
Yeah.
There was this yearning to connect with people I'm related to, but
playing judo with something, the momentum is all there.
Yeah.
But directing the momentum, directing it in a positive way, that's what you did. Let's use that as a segue. I'm going to hand you this because your business career, you talked about, coaching people in the art of selling. This is a book that you co-authored, Real World Selling Strategies, The Art of Selling Conversation. And I've gone through it quickly once, but let's use this as a segue to talk about your professional life, because that's also pretty amazing. I mean,
you mean I couldn't keep a job? Is that what you're saying?
Self-unemployed, I call it.
Yeah, it's the book. Excuse me. The book was first published in 2013, and then I just republished the book. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But what I discovered early on, there was a book that was written back in the early 80s. I don't know if you remember Megatrends by John Nesbitt.
I remember the name.
One of the things he said is, with everything going on in the economy, and really kind of a Darwinist approach, is if you're going to work for a company, you need to have a project mindset. And so I went into the workforce with that. I've really been self-employed for since at least 2007. I've worked for a couple of big companies, Microsoft being one, Oracle another, and a company which is now called Amadeus. And I've had those experiences, but I just didn't fit in that whole corporate game stuff, because I believe one of the things that's come through my adoption and that is, there are a couple of times I've gone out too early. When I see warning signs in a business, and it's really intuitive for me now, I can see the writing on the wall, if you will, but certain patterns start to develop. Integrity is one in organizations, keeping their word. Just the focus of people in the organization. If it's not there and I don't see it, I'll advise companies, but I'll advise them that they're going to have issues if they don't pay attention to these warning signs. It's like somebody driving a car and the warning lights are going on in the dashboard.
Check engine.
Yeah. And that's a gift I've developed, but I've had so darn many jobs that it becomes pattern recognition after a while. The businesses that I work in, where I can really, every one of my senses is engaged. I can smell it, taste it, feel it, see it for sure, as far as what's going on. And I've had the ability, when I've been affiliated with certain organizations, to see when things are going to happen, and I leave.
Right.
So
the ship's going down.
The ship's going down, but
yeah.
I think more than a lot of other people who haven't had the being adopted experience, I have no issue leaving. And that I'll certainly bond with people, but knowing that and understanding that really gave me a sixth sense for certain businesses. So since 2007, I've worked with over 140 companies.
Wow.
Talk about a guy that can't keep a job.
As
right?
a consultant in there. Yeah. What are the factors, the main factors that keep a company growing, building in a positive trending mode? What are those qualities that you can also see that go, wow, this has positive momentum? It has all the big ingredients. What are the big ingredients?
Yeah, big ingredients. It's passion and leading by example are two of the biggest things I see. I mean, if somebody wants to see passion in people, they should come to one of your power players. They should. The people I met have that kind of passion that I look for in people and businesses. But one of the most powerful things we can do as humans is commit and then keep your word. Now you can recommit, but I find so many businesses, and it sounds trivial, but I'm going to deliver this to you, and it doesn't happen. Or I'm going to call you at 9:00 and you don't show up for a call. What happens is organizations get disempowered. They stop believing in the magic of the business. I can't take another sip.
Yeah. Oh.
So having an understanding of that is important, and I think being even rigid, holding each other to that accountability is important, but also the organizations I've seen that are really successful, they believe in each other, they hold each other accountable, and they believe they're playing for something more than they can do on their own, and they're playing for something greater. Local company here back in the day, Bill Gates put this mission out that we're going to have a computer on every desktop, and we're going to power that. And we're changing the way the world communicates. Who doesn't want to be involved in changing the way the world communicates? It's incredible.
Right.
I think Amazon's had that. We are fortunate to live in a place where so much innovation comes out. Like Boeing changed the way people people can travel.
Right.
And Amazon, the way people shop and the way people transact, and Microsoft. It's been incredible. But having that mission that we're playing for something bigger than ourselves. And I'm a part of that. Rather than I'm a cog in a wheel and I do this and no one gives a shit. Right.
Right. And I think that a business, I don't know, tell me what you think about this. I've seen fairly simple business models that in and of themselves don't look like they're changing the world. But what drives those that are a part of that business is that the business becomes the vehicle to do something that changes the world, that changes their world, that changes their community or their family or something significantly. In other words, this is sort of the donor for this. And it's a good business and it's needed and it's provided, but the business itself isn't. It's sort of a redirect to the profits from the business by time, energy, and resource to do something really significant, really meaningful. To me, I'll give you an example that I'm familiar with he's passed now, but the entire effort of his life's work was visionary, but it wouldn't come to pass for like 2 generations past his life. And so setting the stage for what would be seen 80 years after his life's
incredible,
gone.
Right?
It's that kind of vision to me it's kind of like the question is what goes on bigger and better when you're done? What goes on bigger and better? And sometimes we see it and are blessed to be around to see it, but I think sometimes we're not. And so that kind of dedication towards something you may not even see in your lifetime is even more amazing to me in some ways. The companies that you consult, they first of all, how do they find you? And second of all, what is the role generally? Is it helping them? Well, rather than guess, I think I have a general idea of reading this and hearing a little bit about what you do. But if you're a company, why do they hire you? What is there a theme in that in your consulting?
Yeah, every company has the same problem that I can solve, just in different shades. Mm-hmm. Do you know of any companies that don't want more revenue?
No.
That's where I play. Like, so much of it's been around technology because, frankly, that's where money is. But there's, I'm excited to I'm engaging with an architectural firm down in Los Angeles that is, their architects are just wickedly amazing people. So the clients love them when they come in. And what happens is they'll pop up a month before the project finishes and go, we don't have any billing or any revenue. So, it's working with them on a sales methodology or approach that's in my book, which is on Amazon.com. And and then setting up some things they can automate too, because there is, of course, there's a big human element to generating revenue, but there's also some technology that can give you some shortcuts and do some of the heavy lifting.
Pipeline technology.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Interesting.
You'd asked me how I got to the book. Because I've been involved in so many different organizations, they bring me in. A lot of it's turning around the sales team, or there is a new product, or it's a new company, and they need revenue. And so it's really, I look at people, the processes they have, technology that enables their success, and are they structured, and is their organization structured the right way? So some of the things I've done for organizations, when you've got a bunch of engineers, is they'll ask about the role of sales, and that generally I'll make that, and I don't want to pick on engineers too much, but I will. They'll, because they think making the product and making a beautiful product is great rather than having something that fits to the market. So I'll usually make the teams in a meeting. I'll talk about sales, and I make everybody stand up, put their arms up, and say, "We're all in sales." And it's usually like that at the beginning, and I make them raise the pitch. So by the end, it's, "We're all in sales," and the whole organization gets it. And I talk about how their jobs can impact the revenue of the company, which means better jobs for them, more income, that kind of thing. So, So the book, as I've been involved in organizations, I stumbled into an approach on my own, just completely stumbled into it. We're making a big presentation to Hewlett Packard down in the Bay Area for a new company they were involved in, and this guy Ken Murray was my coach in the process. He wanted our organization to win, and we're competing against some big technology firms like Accenture and PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they were big. They had a lot of qualified people, and we're this little boutique-y shop. And so, I'd been through quite a bit of sales training myself, and the decision makers who were around the table, I knew the names of their children, their birth dates, the names of their pets, and where they went on vacation. I checked all the boxes in terms of building rapport, building relationships with them, and it came to the final presentation. And I was working with still one of my closest, a very close friend of mine, Mike Yinger, and he was COO of the company, and he'd put gold paper clips on the leave behind presentations we're making. I mean, it was a $5 million opportunity in all services, which was a big deal. Still a big deal.
Yeah.
And so what I discovered is, usually being the person who's a revenue generator, you open the meeting and you close the meeting. And so we'd gone through the night before. I had 7 slides on why they should choose our organization. And I cared about everybody on the team. I really liked the team. And so we got to the point where it's time to close it up. And I was thinking about it and thinking, like, I was told by Lou Platt, who was the CEO of Hewlett Packard at the time, that for this team, it was hero or zero for them. If they didn't succeed, it's tough stuff, right? And so my care and my empathy for them was that, like, look, this is an important project. Shut the laptop down. And I said, I care about each one of you. And it's very, very important at this point that I had 7 pages on all the reasons you should do business with us. But I think it's important for you to to really understand why. And I can't tell you why would you do business with us? I think it's important you understand this. This is a pivotal project for you. And I was with the COO that I mentioned and the CTO of our company. And I think I still have bruises on my ankles from them kicking me under the table because I'd gone off script. and we were silent, and 30 seconds and it seemed like 10 minutes. And one of the people said, I'm concerned about this interface, that if you've had experience doing this. And the chief technology officer in our group said, we did that for Toyota, and here's what it looked like. Oh, okay. And then it turned into a love fest, because there's a psychology of, if you push, people resist. If you pull away, people come towards you. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important thing. Finn and my grandson and I were talking about that on the way up, about girls, like, my dating advice.
Did you take notes, Finn?
Finn has it memorized. So the interesting thing is we were competing against these monolithic organizations, and it turned into a very loving meeting, if you will. And it's kind of unusual for business meetings, but they talked about how much they liked us, how nimble we were. But the one thing I discovered is, would we have ever uncovered that issue? That could have been, the business could have gone out the door.
Right.
And so I learned, pulling back is one thing, but also understanding what somebody else's needs are and asking them to specify what those are is the most important thing. So that's something I learned. That
I think you underscored too, that you understood from a personal perspective the importance of this juncture. This is a crossroads. This is a sink or swim. This is we all know if this doesn't work out, what the future looks like. And that's not a fear motivation. It's a sensitive, I feel the reality of that. I get that. We've got to get from here to here safely, and we've got to perform. Together, we all need to do this. And I get the sense of importance around that. To me, that's getting in somebody's own skin, because they feel it, but they don't necessarily want to play that card. It looks scary to put it on the table, right? No one likes to say, I'm sort of in a bad space here, we need help. At least nobody I know and work with likes to admit they need help, right? And so to almost say it for them, it's the elephant in the room. It's like, okay, he gets the vibe of where we're at here. They know it. Let's all know it. And now we can do something about it. We'll get so many hours of talking on this, but I think that I was so blessed at 18 years old to, by mistake, I'm sure, get introduced to, Dr. Michael Shadow and his teaching. And if I were to summarize in like a sentence, it's understanding, deeply understanding your audience, their attitudes, their beliefs,
so you learned that early on too.
Predispositions, their language, their motivations, their fears, their what they're proud of. Every nuance of your audience comes to play. You can't solve the equation unless you solve it from their perspective.
Right.
And so knowing their perspective, understanding their perspective is job one. And, you did that. You mentioned I knew their kids' names, their dogs' names. It's like you're in their world, which gives you can tell when somebody's sort of presenting a shiny size 10 shoe, but you go, but I'm a size 12 and a half. and it's not fitting me. Oh, well, we'll adapt it,
I can shove your foot in a
just
little bit more.
Little more. Yeah, it just doesn't work. But to measure someone, say, no, okay, now we're going to customize this around exactly you, make a last, as it were, of your particular foot, to customize this shoe around who you are, what you need, what you won't even say, but I've picked up on it. That to me is job one, and you're doing that, which sets you apart.
Sometimes you walk away.
Sometimes you do,
because that shoe doesn't fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
How I got to the book was Hal Thorsvig was a friend of mine who had a construction software company called Dexter and Cheney that was here in Seattle. A friend of mine had brought Hal in to coach him and his team and provide a sales approach, and their sales went through the roof. So what took me 17 years to learn, Hal was teaching. What you learned at 18, Hal had a methodology built around it. And so I would bring him into organizations because, I certainly could preach to the team, but it's also good to have somebody who can go a little bit deeper than I could, who's dealing with it every day in terms of sales coaching. And so I brought Hal into several organizations that I was involved in coaching or either leading, and it just became part and parcel for what I did. Hal told me he was writing a book, and I said, great, I want to read it when you're finished. Then I got a call a few months later. He said, I need somebody that has the stories you do and who's a type A who can push my ass to get this thing done. And so it's...
So the co-authoring, there it is.
So
what a team.
4.5 years later, we published the book. So I set everything up and the commitment Hal made to me is he said, when you go into businesses and you turn it around, I've been fortunate that I've had a very good track record of turning around businesses and getting them on the right track and then leaving. Which I think that's what you need. And he said, can you tell me exactly what you do? What's the pattern or the approach or the methodology? And I said, well, I just I can see it, I can feel it, I can, like we talked about earlier, he said, you're an unconscious competent. And he said, if you sit down and write the book with me, you'll at least become somewhat of more of a conscious competent. So writing the book took me to that level. Now, what transpired was I was hired by the New Zealand government. They pay 40%, or they were paying 40% of the businesses when they expand globally. The government would cover that. I think it's kind of a smart investment in a lot of ways and encourages, global expansion. What they insisted on was there's an advisor that rides along with them. So there were about 70 companies I worked with out of New Zealand during the pandemic, which was pretty interesting. And so I had a lot of experience and a lot of depth there. But people would read the book, and I have an Audible version now too, which was I would encourage, Greg, I know you're working on one. I'd encourage you to do your own narration, because nobody can tell the story the way you can. I've heard your stories, so that's 100%. I'll keep bugging you about that. But there were a couple CEOs that called me out and said, "Look, you're talking about picking up the phone and cold calling people, and yet you're advising us on the CRM and technologies that we can do to get more leads and do that. That's not in the book." The other thing that's shifted significantly in the business world, especially in technology, is when we wrote the book in 2013, about 30% of revenue in tech companies came through partners. Microsoft is almost 100%. They sell through partners. It's kind of tricky because you lose that direct connection with the customer, but they may have better connections with customers than you do, and there's some good reasons for doing it. by 2023, 70% of the revenue in tech companies is coming through channel partners. And I was doing a lot of advising on how to recruit and select and how to onboard and then how to optimize partners when they come in. So I added those pieces to it. And then the one that came naturally out of it was technology too. So I updated that in terms of a few different chapters. So it's really updated.
The evolution of life, right? It doesn't stay the same. It's on the move. You mentioned, Jim, that you had a stay at Microsoft and one at Oracle, and I can honestly tell you in the last week, I have talked to two different power players, one who has worked at Microsoft for quite a long time, and another who's worked at Oracle for over 20 years, both having given their notice of termination. The reason that was given in both situations, very direct, was AI is replacing your job.
Yeah.
And shareholders are demanding we make decisions based on revenue, and our labor and AI is, and there's no comparison. And so, unfortunately, what you do in this company, AI can do in 1/100th the time. And this is the evolution of business. I think that
it's been throughout history.
It has been, yeah, right. So now where do we go from here? I think that question looms. Another thing I wanted to just sort of comment on that you said that I think is interesting is that when you're called on to teach what you do or write a book on what you do, it makes you ask the question, well, what do I do, right?
Yeah.
And I remember that at a very young age being asked to teach what I do in deal structuring and acquisition and finance at the university. And I went, I don't really know what I do. I just do it, and they went, well, just teach what you do. And of course, now you got to create an outline and put it in 10 weeks and go, what do I do? And what's first and what's second? And I just kind of did it. But the framing it really helps you in the doing of it when you break it apart and really take every nuance to at least your understanding at the time. You lay it out, and then you can see how your own thinking evolves over time with experience and with economies, et cetera, et cetera. But I would advocate that for anybody to make an outline on what you do, because sometimes what you shouldn't be doing shows itself in glaring fashion. Time block your day and write it down. Oh, wow. Gee, that was a waste of time. What am I doing that for? Those are the questions that come out of self-analysis. And when you write a book to say, well, what do you do? How do you think? You're basically analyzing what comes naturally to you. Now you're putting it out there, trying to teach somebody what you do. Wow, it's a hard task.
It's like we talked about earlier. It takes it from unconscious to conscious.
Exactly.
And it's not an easy thing to get to, but you will get efficiencies out of it, because you'll go, I didn't really need to do this or that or the other thing to get to that.
Yeah.
I can do it better next time by having that deep of an understanding of it.
Right.
Yeah, I'm with you. I highly recommend people write their story.
I had a client ask me once, Jim, would I follow them for a whole day, from the minute they woke up in the morning to the minute they went to bed, literally there at the foot of their bed when they wake up, there when they crawl in, and then write a report on how they could be more efficient in their day. And I went, what? No, I'm serious. I'll pay for it. I just need somebody I'm just going to pretend you're not there, and at the end of the day.
Wow.
And I went, well, this could be interesting. And I did it more for me than them, I think. I was just like, Well, that turned into some serious self-analysis for myself, because it's so much easier to see in others, like, why are you doing that? Why didn't you do this, this, and this and put them in this order versus this, and back to this? Just simple efficiencies. I could just see, like, I wouldn't have done it that way. I would have done it this way because you would have saved an hour. You know, little things like that. Well, wow, that really rocked my world to ask myself the questions like, oh my God, you better time block every hour for a day or every minute for a day and look at it and ask yourself, is this moving me in the direction that's serving myself and those people I love the most? Right?
It's easy to lose track of it.
It's so easy. And in our world today, with this continuous, unending fire hose of stimulation and notifications and distractions, that's the volume's getting turned up every day, to be focused and playing your game, not somebody else's game, is getting even more and more difficult, I think. I really believe that.
Did you know, a couple things come to mind. There were some speeches I was involved in giving about changes in technology and that from the beginning of time till the time I was in college, you were in college, the amount of communication that was disseminated to humankind from beginning of recorded time to that time. 1.5 days now. Are we wired to handle that? And the best behavioral scientists in the world, you know what they're doing? They're trying to get your eyeballs on every single thing they can with noise, with that. So yeah, it's important to have that reflection time more than ever. I mean, you really hit on a good point. I believe that's going to be a success criteria for people going forward. Another article I read was, Zuckerberg and I think Bezos and some of the tech executives are very, very stingy and limit the time of their children on devices.
Right. Yeah, those statistics will just ruin me. The average 13-year-old spends 7+ hours a day looking at a screen. I can't even get my head around that. How many times people check their whatever. I can't get my head around it. I want to take. Here we go. It's boiling now. The idea of my brother sent me a podcast. He said, "Listen to this. Just really listen to it a few times." I think I've listened to it either 3 or 4 times now. But it essentially the theme is that we have forgotten how to be quiet. Like, not even with an agenda of, I'm going to go think on this. I'm not going to think on anything. I'm going to try to not think of anything, to simply open my mind to quiet, because quiet is something nobody knows anymore. And that so then this goes on, that the everything coming at us so fast, the physiological reaction that all of us have with all of the overwhelming stimulation that's going on is fear. We don't run to it and embrace it. We're like, too much, all this squirrel. It's just out. Fear. Okay, well, fear is, nothing good happens in a bed of fear. Nothing good can grow in a bed of fear.
You lose your perspective. Right?
There's just no rudder. And so this idea of being at peace in just this quiet space. Interesting, coming out of Maui and alumni this year, power players. One of our very, very top power players, Nikita Zhitov, and I've sat right here with him, has really dove deep into, I'm just going to put it, the value that he's placed in his life on meditation, to just get into a place of quiet in your mind and to be open and quiet. And I mean, he's taking it to a different level. He's going to be doing a TED Talk on the value of this.
Wow. Coming up this year.
Literally, it's going to be on stage this year for 18 and a half minutes. And the chosen topic is the value of that quiet space and how without it, nothing else that you do is going to make sense. It's just going to be a garage sale of stimulation. I'm like, wow. So isn't it interesting that there was a day that I can remember all the discussion around productivity and push more and do more. And now we don't need to worry about that. We're on overdrive. Now the real challenge is get away from a screen and get quiet. Wow. That's the new challenge. That's the workout of the day. That's the nutrition of the day.
That's a tough workout.
It's the hardest workout. Yeah. It's the hardest discipline.
But people need to do that for their own mental and physical health.
Exactly.
Now,
yeah.
I think it's imperative. If you look at where our health has gone in the last 20 years, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And getting away from the screens, finding that time, being mindful is super, super important.
Mm-hmm.
There are two things. Going back to the book Megatrends, he had a quote, high tech, high touch. And what he means by that is the velocity of technology adoption increases. And we're like this right now in terms of technology adoption, the more need we're going to have for human touch and human interaction. It ties back into that stillness or that meditation prayer. There was, if you follow Gary Vee, he was talking about AI in his podcast last week, where he was saying there's a certain humanness that we still need. We need to have, and that's important. And we have to find that away from the screens, because we're going to need that more than ever. If you look at the wellness industry, things like yoga, things like massage, 30 years ago, was there much to it? There really wasn't. But we need it more and more than ever. Humans need 12 hugs a day to maintain.
Wow.
We need.
Never heard that.
We need that touch. We need more humanity. And there's some things I'm writing, and I spoke to a ghostwriter that I may involve in writing this family story, because there's a lot of insights to it. Yeah. And she was telling me that now, like, a good writer can look at something that's AI generated versus not.
Oh, wow.
And it lacks, there's a cadence and a tone to it that is good. It's powerful, but humans don't have it. One of the things I took away, and I was very honored to be your surprise guest last week at Power Players for a birthday. It is how many of the power players are utilizing AI and how they're using it. There's a fellow from the East Coast that talked about how he's pulling up more bids and more data, and then actually using it to construct emails that are sent out. And it was really cool. It's great, but it's the technology. We need to own the technology. The technology shouldn't own us. And right. I thought that was really powerful. I believe people who are on the cutting edge are utilizing it, and they're figuring out how to utilize it to be more effective and more efficient. but also to have more time, and hopefully they incorporate the mindfulness into it. I was involved in a panel, and people were asking, how is AI going to impact salespeople, revenue generators, or is it going to be the end of salespeople? And I said, no, it won't. What I would say is the salespeople, we need that humanness. It's part of that interaction. It's like the Hewlett-Packard story I talked about. AI can't deliver that kind of transaction. The salespeople and the people generating revenue that will be the most successful will be AI enabled. That's the difference.
Right.
It won't eliminate those jobs. Yeah.
And that's encouraging to me. It's so much of what I believe about business all starts with the interaction. It's the right brain side of connection and understanding that leads to, okay, now let's get into the technical side.
Or trust.
And if this isn't built, then however you go about the technical side, whether it's AI drafting an agreement or you do, or how it escrows or this and that, technology is changing everything in that side. But I contend that if the stage isn't set correctly here, that there's nothing to do over here. This is where the battle is won and lost, is in the relationship.
Absolutely.
So I don't see that going out. Matter of fact, I see it becoming even more of a premium when people say, "Oh, I have 5,000 friends." I go, "No, you don't." No, don't say that. No, you don't. You might have 3 if you're lucky, right?
Lucky to have some good ones.
Yeah, it's. But I think that it's actually opening a door there. That when the human side is truly excelling, it's going to be so much more noticed. It's going to be so much more appreciated when everything is swinging toward, AI/assisted efforts. The difference between somebody handling something with amazing customer service or handing you a device that you do everything, and of course you have to give them a tip now that you've done everything. You're going, what am I giving you a tip for? I'm getting it myself. I'm processing the transaction myself. It kind of is offensive that customer service, the delivering value has to come first. It always will be that way in my mind.
It's interesting, and we had an experience last week where, you're asking about success in organizations. One person can impact somebody's vacation, somebody's experience. Could be a perception of Maui, where I'm headed with it a bit, but like people who go above and beyond in service jobs and that stand out these days.
Absolutely.
They deliver something above and beyond the quality. Like we had, I won't go into the one experience, but the one experience we had was in setting up a dinner reservation. There was a woman we met after we were having some beverages and that, and she called 2 or 3 people to make sure our experience at another property where we're having dinner would be set up and the people knew us. It's just, it's highly unusual to get good experience. You can really differentiate and stand out from the crowd by providing that extra bit of caring. And some of that's loving and being kind to people, but having that service mentality on the one hand. On the other hand, it can be a little bit greedy because you'll get promoted. You will stand out from the crowd, or there'll be something else that will come your way you'll develop because of what you do. I've seen that in organizations, and people have asked me, it's like, well, so-and-so is doing such a good job, I wonder how long I can keep them. you know.
Right.
And I think that's definitely a mindset in business these days.
What was the quote I heard from Richard Branson? It's something about being the employer that you teach and empower. You teach and show the people that you have working with you everything you know so that they could go do it on their own, but treat them so well that they don't want to leave. And I thought, wow, isn't that the leadership model of being open and wanting them to know everything, no secrets. I'm going to teach you everything I know, and you could go become a competitor, but I'm also treating you so well that you don't want to go anywhere. You just want to stay here because you love where you're at. I think that model, it's back to people. It's back to the way you connect and treat people. And I think that there's a lesson there for everyone. I think though that the carrot right now that I see out there, the dangling shiny object, is look, you don't have to do anything. Just technology can do it for you. Look at this system. You sit and you just make money, and you don't have to engage with anybody. It's all tech. I think that those will be short-lived. I think people are getting tired of that mentality that you should have to give something exceptional to succeed in an exceptional way. I really believe that that's a gauge, that it's a fairness thing, that if you bring nothing and receive a lot, there's something wrong with that.
And some of the people, if you look under the veneer or under the covers, if you will, at what they're providing, the value is not always apparent. Some of the big social influencers now, there's a tremendous amount of money. I mean, as humans, we're herd animals, right? We follow other people. So,
right.
Oh, Brad Pitt's drinking this. I want to look like Brad Pitt. I'll drink that too.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the reason they have product placement in movies. The smart social influencers, you see their like Yeti mugs. Look at this.
Right.
And so it's changed a little bit, but they're shrewd business people in terms of what they're doing. You can't just throw content out there without, any value behind it.
Yeah.
So they have promotions, and they're, this Mr. Beast, who's a social influencer. Finn was telling me he's opening up an amusement park in Saudi Arabia, but he's built a brand. But every one of his shows, he's doing some kind of product promotion or product placement. It's just a different way of delivering that advertising.
Right.
It's still the same shtick. They're very thoughtful business people.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No,
the ones that are successful.
And it's a reality, as you know better than anybody, Jim. The world of social media, the world of how that all is expanding, and virtual reality and AI, and all of these things are here to stay. There's no undoing them. They're growing faster than we can even speak.
Yeah.
What does a person that doesn't completely get that do? What, and I think it comes back to those core values is figure out what you can do to bring value, and do it really, really well. That the whole philosophy of not just delivery, but over delivery. It's like catching people off guard with like, what? That comes with it? You're doing that too? Oh, I just do this as an extra. Absolutely. Thank you for your business. That kind of thing is what it's going to take to outrun this other, I believe.
I really see it as developing your core competencies. And there's technology over here. Mm-hmm. I posted something on Facebook this week that really I got teared up reading it. It was about the importance of truck drivers.
I read it.
Yeah. And
I read everything you put out there. It was that valuable, right?
That valuable. There's too much emphasis, in my opinion, on AI and tech jobs. There's some really important work people do that we need to celebrate and really hold those people up for what they're doing. This story went on to talk about, this fellow who was a truck driver stood up in front of the class of his, his son was in, and people kind of looked down on him because he was a truck driver and, had dirt and grease in his fingers and that. But then he talked about what he really delivered in terms of value. And he had to sit in a truck with insulin that would keep people alive in a snowstorm for 3 days. He had to keep the truck running, and he was eating like K rations of food, and delivering that. And people in the class were blown away by it. Yeah. And his son told him on the way home how proud he was that after the neurosurgeon and people spoke, and he felt like they were kind of looking down on him. And there's so many important things you can do, and I believe everybody should look at the value they're adding to the world. This person knew his value, just other people
knew his value, did it well, took pride in it, signed his name. Yeah, serving
others is I'm at the point where the service to others is the most important thing to me now. There's a quote, St. Francis of Assisi. I was raised Mormon, so how do I understand Catholic quotes? And I'm not Catholic, but what he said was, "It is in the giving that we truly receive." So in a way, it's a little bit selfish, but I found that to be true. I've had some circumstances where I've done things for other people, like helping a niece on the birth mother side of the family with her college experience and that. She didn't think she could ever get into college. And she called me during one of the elections and told me she wanted to know that if she ran for president, I'd be her campaign manager because she knew she'd win with me. And her father had passed away recently or before that. And, those experiences to me I love money, but well, I should say, and those are important too. I think there's a real value in serving others.
Yeah, huge.
And so without any expectation of quid pro quo or something coming back to you, that's what really turns me on. And seeing my grandkids grow up the way they do, and
well, Jim, I think that what's interesting, we haven't talked a lot about your family, but coming from where you came from in your childhood and your adopted parents, and to see you and your bride married for how long now? 44 years with these beautiful kids that are successful and doing well, and no one would ever know the backstory of that. I hear a lot of people use certain things, difficulties, challenges, things that they had no control over, but they can use those as their reason for not being able to do this, that, or the other thing. And it's not that those things don't affect it. They certainly make it more challenging sometimes. Yeah. But you're like the example of, listen, I'm going to use this situation to fuel me. I'm going to use it to light me on fire to go even further than I might have gone. And I think that it's not what happens to you as much as what are you going to do with it, And you've done an amazing. This life of yours is truly amazing, given what some would call a really, really rough start. I want to say one other thing that just occurred to me many times. When you think of kids today, and young kids, I mean, you go to restaurants and see parents who say, "Here, this will keep the kid quiet," and they hand them, an iPad. They're 3 years old playing some stupid game. But here you were in Alaska exploring with your husky. Here you're, in all these outdoor interesting fishing and hunting with your dad and all of these experiences that are so pure. I would say that to me, there's the foundation that formed you. You know how to entertain yourself. You know how to work in your own mind to develop your own thinking around things versus have it handed to you in some device that is so confusing and so everything's accessible. I don't know. I think that there's got to be some back to basics that have to apply. That hard work adds up, right? That these kind of experiences create competence to go navigate the world. You know how to make a fire. You know what I mean? The basics. To me, that would be everything I believe in says that it all starts from that kind of thing. And you had that with parents who really were giving you those opportunities. How do we re-engage that way? Out in nature, out in the mountains and hiking and quiet space.
Best, isn't it?
God, it just has to happen in this world in my mind, to create the kind of depth that creates true happiness and success.
It sounds like I live in Japan, but they have practices they've kept up over time, and they have something called forest bathing. I don't know if you've heard about it. Where they just go out in the forest and take everything in, and it provides, like the power player you mentioned, it's their meditation.
Right.
And it's a regular practice of what they do.
I could see that.
Yeah, I mean it's
You've been to the redwoods, I'm sure, on the coast where you walk in, you just 30 yards off the road, you can just stand there and go, wow.
Blown away, right?
Wow. Where you're feeling your sense in the big picture of things, that it's not all about you. Look at this.
So was it General Sherman, the big one?
Right.
Yeah, it's huge.
Right.
Drive through.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something about being out, in nature, and even if it's a local hike here that's going up Tiger Mountain or something, it's just it's serene. We need to do that.
Yeah.
And a message I would give to people too is hug your challenges. Like if you don't think you can make it through a situation, embrace it if you can. So it's hard to do in the moment, but the challenges I've been through, and it kind of goes back to we're all gonna break in different ways, right?
Right.
And it's putting the gold in it and really embracing it. The challenges can make or break us. And if you maybe are persistent and that like I am and like you are, you find your way through. But there are going to be things in life where, like, look, we're human, we screw up.
Yeah.
And
or that you don't understand. Like, we try to figure it all out, where you go, I just can't get my head around this. Yeah. Then what? And what's the book by Michael Singer? The Surrender Experiment. I've just been given that book and have gone through it once, and we'll go through it again, but you're not in control of everything.
You're not. You're not.
And maybe I'm probably a control freak, so it's hard for me to not feel like I'm in control. But the fact is that we're not, and so that peacefulness of going, okay, all right, I'm going to just embrace it, like you said, and see where this goes. That's a hard thing to do.
When we're younger, we don't realize that those challenges are so refining and I hate to say character building, because my parents would always tell me that. I was like, one of those again. But it's true.
Yeah.
And it's I think you talked about it earlier. It's either you bend or you break. And the people who've had some of the most significant challenges growing up, being raised, are some of the richest people I know. And I mean, rich in terms of experiences and just being genuine, incredible people.
Empathetic people.
very empathetic.
Right. Yeah.
My sister Donnie, I think, is a great example of that. How she got to be, this well-known fitness and wellness person with, her mom was married 8 times and being raised like that. Incredible.
Right.
And she is such a gift to the world.
Right. And she has such depth and perspective, and grateful for every good thing. She doesn't miss a thing. Appreciative of every little thing, doesn't miss it.
You'd ask me, and I know some of this is about people's success too. So I would say embrace those things when, there was an expression way back when you're at the end of your rope, hang on.
Right.
And those things, you and I both experienced mountain climbing, and I found that to be a good analogy for life. And I'm glad you made it through that one experience. I've fallen at a crevasse before, and it's scary as hell. But it's those things we do. The more challenge you can take on, the more I think successful you'll be. You'll have that reserve to draw on when you don't think you can get through something. You keep going, regardless of how tough it is.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I'd say is, excuse me, focus is really important. There was, and I would throw out this work-life balance. If you're really devoted to a project and you want success, your life's going to go out of balance sometimes. And mine did. I was traveling a couple 100,000 miles a year. And I got a call from my oldest daughter, Erica, and she's 12 years old, and here's what's going on in my day, blah, 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 blah. And she said, Dad, I don't know why I'm telling you this. I think I was in Minneapolis, and she said, I don't know why I'm telling you this because you're not around for this. And I just went,
note to self.
It was, definitely a wake-up call. So I did change my work somewhat, but there's a term called homeostasis, that we're always seeking equilibrium in our bodies. And I don't believe we're ever in balance. We're always going to be out of balance a little bit. And the idea is to seek equilibrium, but realize if you're committed to success and objectives, you're going to be out of balance here sometimes. And I think having an understanding with people you love in your life is important. But sometimes we get out of whack. And
that topic has been such a challenging one. And I heard someone say I'm redefining it, because basically, to your point, that are we ever in perfect balance? We're just not. And so the conclusion, at least in their mind, was that it should be thought of more like alignment. Like, is my day and my week reflective of what's most important to me? And that begs a different question. It's not like I'm trying to balance certain things, but I'm trying to put the first things first, the most important things first, the prioritizing of, okay, here's my week. Now, what's most important? Well, I want to be here. I want to be here to see this. I want to do this with my family. I want to watch this ball game. I want to, whatever. And then, okay, my own health, in other words, design your week around what truly is most important, and work will fit in, but it isn't necessarily always the most important thing that week. Sometimes it will be. Try to live in true alignment with your values, your priorities. And I can say that, and I'm challenged by it, because, man, I'll tell you, I've been so out of balance a few times. I'm surprised the wheels didn't fall off. And
sometimes they do.
Yeah, so I think especially in the entrepreneurial world, we're not given any structure of, okay, you got to start work at 8, you got to work till 5, you get weekends off. That there is no such thing as that in the entrepreneurial world. It's
you're on 24/7.
24/7 is when you try to work your work in. And it takes even more awareness around alignment, priorities, values. And no, I'm not writing any books on that lately because they're literally chapters I can't even remember because it was just so game on that it's a blur. That's not good. You don't want your life to be a blur. You want to be intentional and I think through the steps,
It's part of the wabi-sabi or the brokenness. It's just
right.
Our way of learning. And there's so many what I call tuition payments in life that we make.
Right.
Some of them could be bad business opportunities, but some, I've missed family things because I was so committed to prove myself and just see something through. I think that's the way it goes. Focus is the other thing, too. It's like when you're in that zone, you just have to be so focused on what you're doing.
Yeah.
There was an organization I was brought into to turn around the sales organization, and it was a company. There were 4 divisions in the company. The division I was responsible for, poorest performing division for 5 years in a row. The 2 founders of the company, it was about $100 million company at the time. They wanted out. They wanted to capitalize, or they wanted to sell the company. This one division was pulling down the company.
The valuation.
Dramatically. They couldn't hit their numbers. So there were 32 salespeople on the team. And I went around and I worked with each one of the salespeople. And it was a technology solution, but it's like, oh, we've been told, it's a consultative sell, and that, we go in and we consult with clients. No, your job's about generating revenue. So the team asked me after I'd made the calls. We were on a team call. They said, "What do you want us to do?" Somebody asked that question, which is for a salesperson kind of a funny question, but I had the answer. I said, "You're not consultative. You're not consultants. You're not paid for consulting. You're paid for generating revenue. So your job is about optimizing your time in front of clients in revenue generating activity." What I learned in that was they heard that over 200 times that year. That's your job, is to optimize your time in front of clients in revenue generating activity, expense reports, all that stuff, preparing for meetings you do after hours. The hours you can be in front of clients, be in front of them and be talking about it.
Communication hours.
So I went out and I showed how, what my approach was. We brought in huge business. Wynn in Las Vegas was one of our clients that for the first time had done business with a company like ours. And so we came on the end of the year push, and we're having a meeting down in Scottsdale, and we're preparing for the meeting, and the team asked, what do we need to do to, what's the business attire? How should we dress? And that singular focus I had was, I said, dress in a way that shows how you're going to blow away your number this year. So we had Superman, Superwoman. We had a pimp, which was pumping incremental margin profitably, and people dressed in all different outfits. So I came into the meeting with a cowboy hat, chaps, and I had a bullwhip and a lasso, and I said, "We're gonna whip your clients into shape, and we're gonna lasso up the revenue." But the point was, they knew what needed to be done.
Right.
And I believe in so many businesses and so many organizations, they need to understand sometimes, or people need to understand
right.
what it's.
What am I here for? What is my role?
And what's an example? So if people were late for meetings, I was like, "Are you committed?" And I would not show up. I was late one time and I heard about it, but I said, I want to recommit to be, from this point on, to be on time, because things happen. And it was a travel issue. But anyway, what happened with that organization is of course, they promoted me into another position by the end of the year, but that team finished the year number one. They'd been
in the department.
They'd been 4 out of 4, and we were able to capitalize the company or sell it right before the crash in 2008 for one of the highest multiples of any company out there. So that's what's possible. But it's that kind of focus. And Greg, the hard part is what we were talking about earlier, that balance. When you're that focused on something, other things in your life just
So you choose. You choose. And I think that in part, because in the entrepreneurial world, there's all kinds of divisions. You're, the small guy, you're the CEO of every department, whether you know anything about it or not.
That's true.
And so you're trying to delegate, you're trying to manage the best you can. You're learning constantly about departments you don't know about, social media, accounting, supply, distribution, process, delivery, all these things you're in charge of.
Yeah.
As a one-man show, many of my students are one-man show entrepreneurs. So it takes real time blocking of your focus to be where you are, because switch tasking, isn't productive. Focus, like you said. So you time block. I'm working on this right now, and I've prioritized it, and this is what I'm focused on, and I'm going to set a clock, and for this time, this is all I'm thinking about and what I'm doing. So I think that part, being where you are, is another way to meet all these objectives, because we tend to let everything blend in. It drives me crazy when you have a meeting with someone and I just got a phone call. I got to step out for a minute. It's like, no, my phone's not in the room. I'm here for this hour,
present.
For this meeting.
Right.
100%. You don't think that when I go look at my phone, there'll be 40 missed messages? Yes, there will be. But right now, I'm where I'm at. To me, it bothers me when the people you're working with can't do that. I've literally had to take people's phone away to the extent of going, watch, if I have to take it away again, it's mine. And I get to do anything I want with it, because now I own it. And I take it away. I walk out I got 6 skips out of an iPhone once in the Cayman Islands. And then it sunk to the bottom and I went, there, we're not going to have to worry about that again, are we? Because it's mine now and it's gone. So
there you go.
There you go. Now we're going to get focused.
But that's a life lesson for you.
Yeah. She'll never forget it. Be where you are, though, is very challenging in a world with continuous partial attention.
The odds are against us.
It is. So there's back to the calm, the peace, the ability to find focus in a chaotic world is the new A game. If you can do that and play that A game now you're going to do well.
Peace is so important.
It is.
It's important to find that.
Do you get the feeling that we could sit here and have lunch served and just keep going right through dinner?
Probably.
And I can't wait, because we've got
might have a glass of wine too.
Right, exactly. Where's that coming? Buddy, I want to make sure of a couple things before we wrap this. One, I want to make sure that you give people a couple books to read.
Sure.
You've given me this one, James Kerr Legacy.
Great.
And wow, I'm about 20 pages into it, and you're right. This is one of those books.
It was,
and I just even just the intro you gave me about this, simply about that this team exemplifies a template or a model of what the most successful companies follow.
They do.
And this team, the All Black, what's called the All Blacks, which is a rugby team that is world renowned.
It's been the best in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
But they follow certain principles that companies should follow. Wow. Amazing book.
And I think that's true of smaller organizations too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Oh, I'm loving it. Give me a couple other books that you would say are your absolute must read. Name 3 of them for people, because I know you read a lot. Give me 3 books, because people are always looking for that with people who have great developed minds. This being one.
Well, of course, my book.
Yes, of course, your book. Yes, we've gone through that.
And a side note on that is that I do get called out on people. Sometimes, even writing a book, sometimes it's like, well, you forgot this step. It's like, oh. So
you're right.
Yeah, you're right.
It's in the next version.
It's true. One book I really default to in the business world is Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Mm-hmm. And it's like sharpening the saw I run into all the time, the 7th habit. Mm-hmm. You have to read the book to figure out what that is if you don't know what that is. But it's nothing new. Like there are references to wisdom out of the Bible and different places that we should all adopt. But I've just found that to be steadfast and true in the world these days. Stephen Covey really captured that. One of the first books I read when I was young was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, and it ended up a graduation present my parents gave me was going through the Dale Carnegie training, which was terrific. There's a tremendous amount of wisdom in that. I mean, those are kind of the business books that that are just ingrained up here for me.
Tell people about your podcast. I love the name. The
Hot Tub
Confidential.
Hubba. Yeah, it's something I started with my grandson. My daughter down in Camas has they've got a great hot tub in their backyard, and deer go by and raccoons. It's a beautiful setting. And going through the experience I did with DNA and discovering birth family, I have a lot of friends and a lot of people I just wanted to, because people thought I was the son of Mario for the longest time, but I wanted to get a message out about what I've been going through, and I did it more for myself, but it was a very personal message about the experience and the family. And I did the first one. It wasn't really a hot tub, but it looked like a hot tub when we were in Greece this last year or earlier this year, and posted that message. And then I had some additional thoughts, and some people I know online that I like and trust said, this is kind of cool. You've got kind of a brand there and sitting in the hot tub. And then my grandson Finn did a couple of videos with me, and somebody actually asked what I was wearing, which I thought was kind of bizarre. And so the way I interpreted that was the
endorsement for clothing line.
But I said, yeah, if you don't think I have anything on, you're in the wrong channel, pal. What's the OnlyFans? I said, you need to go to that channel. But anyway, and so I said, I asked people, I said, what do you think a good name for this would be? And so Hot Tub Confidential came up as one people liked. So I do these kind of personal videos in the hot tub when I'm down there, or
when you're musing wise philosophical thoughts. So how do people get a hold of you? What is the best way for people to connect with you after they listen to this? They're going to want to hear you live on their own phone or somehow. Instagram, Facebook, how?
I've got a website.
Okay.
It's under James B. Hayden, HAYDEN.com. So you can communicate that way, or, and that has my contact information, but you can kind of get a taste of some of the videos are on there that I've done. And right now we're in the process of categorizing the videos, because there are probably close to 100 videos that have been done, not all on Facebook, not all in a hot tub. And so there's personal success, business success, and just some ideas that I have for the world about service and other things. So I'm doing that. And one of the things my grandson Finn inspired me to do, I have 2 social media consultants. One's Aaliyah Joy and the other one's Finn. And because they know this so much better than I do, is to put it behind a paid platform. And what's the name of it, Finn? The paid platform? Patreon. So we're in the process of putting some of the videos. So if somebody's got a situation and they haven't read the book, they can go to the video and they can get like an insight, how to prepare for a meeting, the checklist you need to go through, how do you prepare for a particular presentation. All those things will be in there, but we're looking at putting them behind a paid platform. One, to make it easy to understand, but it just makes sense. There's some good content involved in it.
Right.
And then we're doing grandson, grandfather podcast, because I don't understand Fortnite and some of the things in terms of communicating these days. And my grandson seems to have a real thirst or hunger for wanting to know what you're going to go through. We were at a restaurant last night, and there was a woman who's had a successful business for 16 years, an entrepreneur, and we were talking about what it takes to succeed and the tough road it is, and to have a business in Seattle for 16 years and have ongoing clientele. There's a lot you go through. Right. So I think I would love to see it turbocharge the efforts. And you've talked about like a junior power players, where you can go to people and you can ask questions about. You can have some mentorship. I fortunately, when I was growing up, went to Jim Rohn and Tom Hopkins a little bit later, but Dale Carnegie classes and courses and things like that. I had that opportunity to do that. I think younger people who really have that drive, they want to know, and there's a heck of a lot we could learn. So I consider myself what I call a mentern, which is a mentor and an intern. So beginner's mindset with what I can learn from people who are younger, and knowing where my place is in terms of mentoring.
Great collaboration. I think that when you think of the ideal family, right, and the way it should be, it's that grandparents actually are there with the family and have a big role with grandkids, right? And that, I hate to say the Waltons, it dates us, but that sort of arrangement, that there's place for it, that
Sure.
the wisdom of generations, parts of it has to be passed down. So, I'm loving that you're accessible, and thank you for dedicating this time. This hangar is not on the way to anything, and that maybe to Canada if you're running for it, but it's definitely out of your way. So to be here and to just to throw yourself out there, this podcast is just awesome, Jim. And for all of you listening, follow up. There's just so many nuggets in this man, and you've got ways of getting a hold of him. And I think you know how getting a hold of me. You've got my number, and until next time, this is Pinneo, over and out.